It seems ever increasingly that the world is getting more and more corrupt. And when I say the world, I mean the authorities of the world, not the actual planet itself. The planet is desperately trying to keep a balance of everything. But it does seem that the governments, these deep, dark forces, the global elites, are becoming more and more corrupt, causing more chaos and mayhem wherever we go. And it seems to me that the answer is to try and extract ourselves from all of their theatrical world, their acts and statutes, the legislation, all this nonsense that doesn't really apply to us as living men and women, and take ourselves into the private. And so doing that is maybe on the face of it not easy. But if we have the tools and we had the knowledge, we can move ourselves and take as many of the benefits of living in the private as possible. And then if we want to move into the public or the world of legislation for certain purposes and take advantages of that, then we can. But with all the tyranny that's coming down and people being forced to have smart meters and having to pay tax and having the council wanting to extract cash from you and the utilities companies trying to persuade you to pay for the bills that may already have been paid and all of that, it is worth taking ourselves deep into the private and having nothing to do with them. And there's many ways to do that. I came across a website some time ago now, and I can't remember if I've actually shown it to you. I think it's for those people who are quite new to the idea of living in the private, of not being part of the acts and statutes, of not being part of legislation and realizing the big scam that's been played. It's a fantastic introduction. So I wanted to share it with you. And I don't know if the person who, or the man, I should say, who has put this together watches my show, but I just want to say a big thank you because early on when I was trying to work out what it was all about, it really helped me. And I think as a beginning piece. In fact, my daughter was very interested when she came over from New Zealand, and she's been here recently, and I was telling her about the stuff that I've been doing and about the name and the all caps name, and she said, and she started to sort of, there was a glimmer in her eye I could see, and she says, I'm really interested, where can I learn some more? And I was thinking, golly, there's so much material out there, but it can be overwhelming. And then I remembered this website, and so I sent it to her. And then I thought, I know, I should be sharing it with everybody. So let's have a quick look, shall we? It's called Living in the Private. I'll put the link in the description, but sometimes they do take, on YouTube, they sort of cut the link off so it doesn't work and you can't click on it. So for the sake of argument, I will tell you the URL. It is livingintheprivate.blogspot.com. So it's relatively easy to find. Anyway, so here we go. Living in the private. Educate yourself, ask questions, verify everything, it says. And I'm obviously not going to take you through the whole website because it's not my website, but I just want to highlight it, and you can go and have a look at it and learn so much about what it means to be in the private. But let's just have a look at some of the opening statements, if that's okay. Every natural man or woman is born in the private, whereas the state is public, and therefore its public servants and its legal fiction creations are in the public, including its artificial legal persons. And you would have heard me talk about the legal person, the legal fiction, the legal entity, however you want to call it. A man or woman can either live in the private or act in the public. However, we are trained from an early age to accept a higher authority as normal. Most people exist in a culture of submission and conformity, allowing numerous aspects of their lives to be controlled by the government. The populace is manipulated to become dependent, that's with debt money, and conditioned to become fearful. And we've seen that with racism, terrorism, and wars, etc. The manner and appearance of authority is usually intimidating by design. Look at the way that policemen are dressed, the people in the court with their gowns and gavels and wigs and all of that, while the language of the legal fiction of commerce, the legalese, is deceptive. And we've seen that all over the place. You are indoctrinated to act in the role of the artificial legal person, which is a creation of the state and a debtor serving as surety for the corporation debt of Your Nation Inc., i.e. your name, your all caps name, which was created when you were born. So anyway, I'll just pause there for a moment, because obviously you can go and check all this out. And so I've been talking about this for some time, about separating ourselves. I've been learning it, deep dive, and a lot of people know that. And yet I still see a lot of the freedom people sort of fighting within the jurisdiction of them calling themselves the name and using the legislation against itself, which, you know, can work and is a good idea, because you can cut them, tie the legal people up in knots. But I feel now more and more that taking yourself out and actually being honourable to yourself and to real life is more important than continually nipping into the game of Monopoly, as I call it, because they want to have the monopoly, and try and fight the wars down there. So I always try to write as the sort of the agent, if you like, to the all caps name of that I was given. So, you know, I'll always be the agent, the executor, the sole beneficiary of this estate that they've created. Fred Bloggs, let's say, for example. I won't actually be the Fred Bloggs or the Richard Vobes. I'll actually be outside of that, the living man. And they can't cope with that too much. But the more that we state who we truly are, I think that's where our inner power is. I wanted to go to one other page on this website, just to sort of show you, demonstrate how wonderful it is, and how helpful, particularly as I say, a newbie coming to this. Your living identity, here we go. You are not a name, but you have been given an appellation as a title for your life to be called by. Your given appellation, which is your given or Christian name, is your unique estate title. That's why I was talking about the estate just now, i.e. John or John Henry, which would be your second name. You are given this title for your life, which is your private estate. Your estate is the land or property of your mind, body, and soul, and all the physical and intellectual property that derives from your living energy, including your inborn unalienable rights. Your family name, let me just scroll up a little bit, your surname is not part of your unique estate title, nor is it a one-of-a-kind proper noun like your estate title. Instead, it is a shared and generic name for your family or your clan or your tribe. It is a grammatically different plural noun, and therefore it should not be semantically joined to your unique estate title, i.e. John Doe. By doing so, your estate is corrupt, and that's what you do when you get the birth certificate. They corrupt you, because maybe your name is Fred Bloggs, Fred John, and your family name is Bloggs. Your mother and father register the title because they've been convinced to do so, and you create this birth certificate which joins that family name and turns it into a surname, a sort of legalese thing, and your first name, Fred, so you end up becoming Fred Bloggs. It's all in capitals, and that suddenly appears on all your documents whenever you get a bank account, a driving license, and all of that, because that is a dead entity and it's not you. And I don't want to dwell on this because we've talked about this so many times on the channel and most people have got it. But I just want to really just show you, this website, because it puts it so clearly for people to understand, I think. So, there's a name, it's a noun, it's a verb, it's a plural noun. Maxim of law, which I'm not going to read the Latin because it would make me sound an idiot, which I sound half the time anyway. A name is, as it were, a distinctive sign, a signifier of a thing. It's not the thing itself. That's the thing. The name is not the thing. So John Henry Doe, as they've got legally registered vessel, which is a law of the sea. An appellation is a noun, proper noun. The definition of an appellation is the title or the name of someone. An example of an appellation is the name Tom. John-Henry, lawfully recorded estate. Law of the land, common law jurisdiction, which is where we are, where we live. Not in the blue, which is the legalese area, in which is a dead entity. Anyway, you can read a little bit about the history and more about how it all comes, living identity. Then there's a whole business about the surname and all of that. And, of course, the lawful version, which is the private version, which is where you want to be if you can help yourself. But as I said before, sometimes, it's just useful to be able to dive into the public, but you've got to know which jurisdiction you're in, whether you're in the private, where you're dealing with men and women, and you may be trading with those men and women, bartering, maybe exchanging things like gold and silver for things that have been created by them. And other times it may be useful I think of when we're in our conveyances travelling along the roadways, the king's highways and things like that. It may be useful to just enter their jurisdiction, because every time at the moment, temporarily at the moment, and hopefully this will change in the future, it seems to me that it will, at the moment, of course, every time you put in your own plates and or you don't pay or follow the rules of the highway code, the jurisdiction, the acts and statutes, these thugs dressed up in police outfits as constables, but they may be acting as police officers, will come along and stop you and prevent you from your journey, may then ask for sort of documentation. They may make your life awkward. They may arrest you, detain you against your will, against your rights. And indeed, they may even confiscate your conveyance, your car, your whatever it is that you want to be calling it, traveling in. Because when you're in the private, you're not a driver. But in commerce, in the world of acts and statutes, you become a driver, a professional driver, like a taxi driver or an engine driver or so on. And so sometimes it's easier just to sort of go and say, well, okay, I shall act as this name and use that vehicle. I'll obey as best I can all the acts and statutes so I don't get into trouble. And then at the end of the day, or whenever you've finished your journey, get back into the private. But the more that all of us do this and extract ourselves from their lunacy and realise that things that they mandate or try to convince us to have, like certain medical interventions, like obeying certain rules, we don't have to if we live in the private. Anyway, I'll leave the link in the description. Have a look at that. It's absolutely fascinating. Talks about all sorts of different things, about going to court, about your consent, about your sovereignty, your unalienable rights, and all of that. And you can go and investigate it. And I think it's just a great primer. Anyway, there we are. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back, of course. Until the next time, take care. Bye for now.